The Toad Queen. Once there lived a girl with a poor family. They once found the girl in the forest, and took her under their care, but they were very poor. They called the girl Grunpulster, because she had eyes like green pulls. One day they had so much hunger that they sold the girl to a hunter on stopover. He took the girl to his forest house where she had to work in the household. She could clean it all so good that everything got a gleaming layer, and therefore also the hunter called her Grunpulster, and of course because she had such splendid eyes like green pulls. On a day the hunter had to go on a trip for a long time. Not long after, a beggar knocked on the door. Grunpulster opened, and took the man lovingly in. She gave him good food and a place to sleep. Then the next morning the man came downstairs, and he looked at Grunpulster very gratefully. "Because you have been so caring and loving to me," said the man, "with anything that you will speak a green gem will fall out of your mouth." The girl was in shock, because she didn't expect such a present. She didn't dare to open her mouth, but she nodded gratefully and lovingly to the man, who suddenly disappeared in the nothing. When the hunter came home she didn't dare to speak, but when the hunter took notice of that, and started to ask many questions, she finally opened her mouth, and green gems fell on the ground. The hunter was very ecstatic. The girl told him everything. The hunter was very proud of her, and since then she didn't have to work in the household anymore. On a day the hunter took her to the king of the land. The king was so impressed that he wanted her to marry with his son, but she was not happy. She still thought about the poor family where she came from. After several years she went with her prince to the poor family, and she spoke to them much, and so many green gems rolled out of her mouth that they never had to be poor again. But on a day the girl got lost again in the forest. After walking a long time she came to a little house where a gnome stood in front. "Really, you don't have to work here, but you can stay here for a night, for it will storm hire's houses, ho-eh." The girl listened to the foreign little man, for she didn't want to be taken away by the storm. When she woke up the next day the little man was nowhere to be found. She couldn't help it but making the little house a bit clean, for it was so dusty. And everything she cleaned got a green gleaming layer. When the little man came home that evening he was very impressed. "Stay another night," said the little man, "for this night it will storm again." The next day a beggar came at the door. The girl opened immediately and gave the poor man something to eat. She also gave him a bed. After a while the man came downstairs, and the girl spoke a lot with him, while green gems fell out of her mouth. The man filled his pockets with them and said, "Pikel, to deltade, every time you will speak out of your mouth will come a toad." The girl was in a shock, while the man left fast with his pockets full of green gems. When the gnome came home that night the girl spoke to him while toads rolled out of her mouth. The little man was very shocked and shouted, "Have you let sorcerers in? The forest is full of evil sorcerers. As a punishment, you will have to sleep outside this night." The girl began to cry very hard, but the little man didn't change his mind, even though the girl begged him. That night she wandered through the forests, and there came a big storm who took her. After a long time she woke up in a big pool. She was all under the mud, and that morning she made a long walk through the forest in the hope to find the way back. After a long time she found the way back. When she came at the castle of the prince no one wanted to let her in, because she was under the mud, and whenever she spoke, toads came out of her mouth. And again she slept outside that night, and a big storm took her, further away than ever. She was thrown all the way over the pool. Behind the pool there was an old and poor little house, where an old woman was hanging the laundry, which was splendidly white. The laundry gleamed in the moonlight. "Come in, poor child," said the woman, "for when the storm gets you, he will take you with him. The winds can blow hard here." The girl didn't dare to open her mouth, and went inside with the woman. Inside it was very dusty, and when the woman went outside, the girl decided to clean things a bit, and everything got gleaming green. When the woman came inside and saw the gleaming green, she began to laugh and said, "Pikel, Todel, Tuid, everything which you touch will turn into the skin of a toad." The girl ran outside while crying and was taken by the storm. The storm brought her to the land of the giant toads. The giant toads took her and brought her to their king. The Toad King told her that soon everything would get flooded by the pool. The girl wanted to go home, but the Toad King didn't let her go. She had to work in the palace, and everything she touched turned into toadskin. Also, with everything she spoke, toads came out of her mouth. The girl didn't know what to do anymore. On a day, the Toad King asked her if she wanted to become his queen, but the girl told that she was already the princess of another kingdom, and that she would become a queen there. The Toad King got very mad, and wanted to visit that kingdom. The girl told him that it was the land behind the storm. And on a day, the Toad King and his soldiers went to the land where the girl came from, but they didn't return. The giant toads left behind crowned the girl then as their queen. But on a day, all pools got loose, and they began to flood everything away. The queen ran to her highest tower and saw how the pool dragged the giant toads to the land where she was coming from. The pools began to rise higher, and from the highest little tower window the queen climbed to the roof of the tower, to its top. "Help, help!" cried the queen. In the distance she saw a little boat coming near with the gnome who had sent her away. The gnome saw her also, but didn't want to take her with him. Later she saw a little boat coming with the old woman who laughed at her and had bewitched her. Also the old woman passed her by. The little top had also turned into toadskin now. As her last hope she started to talk and talk, while so many toads came out of her mouth that they began to form a boat in which the girl could step. The girl kept talking and talking like she had never talked before, and a while later she was in a strong boat on the high raging waves. Never before she had seen such a wild sea. After a little while a giant hand appeared from dark air which took her up like a flare of lightning. In a high tower in the clouds, totally made of toadskin, she arrived, and she came eye to eye with the beggar who once gave her the present that everything she spoke would turn into gems. The beggar looked at her very friendly. "You have seen now how a present can put you into problems," the beggar spoke. "But since you have been so faithful, be my queen." And the beggar brought her to a kingdom totally built of green gems, and these gems were the most splendid she ever had seen. And they lived long and happy after.